All right, kids, welcome to episode one of Quarantine Coffee Talk, or Science Coffee Talk. I'm cheating a little bit, making this in the afternoon. I have to do this outside. My house is nuts. I'm sure a lot of your houses are nuts. Everybody's, jammed in and can't really leave in most of your homes. I got kids going nuts, so I'm going to do a lot of these outside of. Just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about my plan, what I'm going to be doing. Going forward as we all adjust to, the new normal, right? So this is very bizarre. This is unprecedented. No one's ever gone through this in their entire lives. I was at my, went to my grandfather's the other day, turned 95. We all kind of sang happy birthday on the front lawn. We're worried about them. We don't want to get too close. And, even someone as old as that, born in 1925, they've never seen anything like this. So this is new. This is something that we're dealing with. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the procedures, what's going to happen going forward with the class, kind of put you at ease a little bit. And I thought this is a better medium to do it than me send out a long, lengthy email or text or document to start off. I will be sending different types of stuff out, but I'm going to try to send a video or two out a week, maybe one, maybe two, just to kind of keep things as close to normal as possible. So the first assignment for next Wednesday is you got to sign on to Microsoft 365. And all you got to do is tell me one positive thing with everything that's going on, something that's been good and something that might maybe challenging. I know for me, the maybe good thing is, I'm always running around, rather usually with school. I have 3 kids and all the family stuff and house stuff at home, and wrestling. I'm always, we wrestle, we go year round, and all the off season stuff. And all those things I enjoy, but we're actually kind of slowing down a little bit here. And part of it's nice, you're not running around. It's getting old. I'm sure it's getting old for a lot of you. But that's been one thing, spent a lot of time with my kids, more time than I have in a really long time, maybe ever. So that's been fun. And a challenging thing for me is, just worrying. You worry about, like I said before, I have my grandparents. Don't worry about they're locked in. I can't really go in and see them. We try to help them out. I'm just worried about, you're worried about healthcare personnel and people with businesses and stuff like that. So, hit me up with on 365, and it's a nice, easy, light assignment, giving you till Wednesday to do that. And that way I'm going to check off by Wednesday who is participating and who's not. And that's going to be a grade. So all you got to do is tell me, something that you've kind of been going through with this whole corona quarantine thing, some positive thing, and maybe a challenge that you've been dealing with. And what I'm going to get into today, and I don't know how many of you guys really got into, maybe you're overwhelmed with information with the news, it's constantly on in the background, or you don't know anything about it. But I know it's earth science, but when I said earlier in the year that earth science kind of incorporates everything, I'm going to kind of talk to you about the coronavirus from a scientific standpoint, which is probably the most important standpoint. Too many people are getting the news off of social media, off of Facebook, and misinformation. So you really should be listening to the science of this. And you might be like, well, it's earth science. What does that have to do with it? Well, I'm your science teacher. It's probably my job to give you anything science related. And earth science has everything involved with it. And not to scare you, but we touched base on diseases when we talked about extinction events, right? There's diseases have been tied to, this isn't going to be an extinction event, but it's something that's worrisome, right? That we got to keep under control. No one's going extinct, but it does have about a death rate of about 2%. We're going to talk about all the different things that go on with coronavirus and the details with it. So the first thing with coronavirus is it actually stands for Coronavirus Disease 2019. If you heard of SARS in the past, it's related to SARS. It's also called SARS-CoV-2. And why is this more worrisome than SARS? SARS had a higher death rate, had about 10% death rate, which is way higher than this. This is about 2%, but that was way more contained. So what is a coronavirus? You probably have had a coronavirus in the past. If you had a cold or the common flu, it's often symbolized, but those coronaviruses have been through humans before. We have a little bit of a buildup in immunity to them. This is kind of brand new, and it's usually coronaviruses are associated with upper respiratory issues, and they're called corona. And we talk about corona with solar eclipses, right? The crown of the sun, it means crown in Spanish, and those spikes, if you've seen those pictures, it has the spikes on it. That's what a coronavirus kind of looks like. So that's where it gets its name. So again, it's new. We haven't really been exposed to it. We don't have a vaccine for it. And that's basically how it works. When you build up antibodies, that's how vaccines work. You're injecting a dead virus into your system, and then you build up the immunity to it so you don't get it later on. Antibiotics only work for bacteria, so antibiotics don't work for viruses. So obviously they're working on a vaccine, and there's different types of things that we'll talk about as far as preventative measures going forward. But the history of it, they know it started in the Wuhan province of China. And a lot of diseases are animal diseases, and they don't transmit to humans unless you have kind of a bunch of animals jam-packed. And it was called a wet market. So what they figured out is that it came from a bat. If you've ever seen it's actually, I don't know if you want to watch it. It's a little scary. It's not as, the movie Contagion. It's similar to that. It started with a bat. But a bat, and then went to a pangolin. And I don't even know what a pangolin was before all this, but if you look up pangolin, they're kind of cute looking. It looks like an anteater with an aardvark with like scales on it. But it's actually one of the number one trafficked animals in the world is a pangolin. So it shares a lot of our genome for whatever reason. So it went from all these guys are together, which usually aren't. It went from a bat to a pangolin to a human being. They think that the first case they found, patient zero, they call it, in December of 2019, and then from there it spread. And it's not the most deadly disease, it's not the most contagious disease that we've ever seen, but it's a little bit of both. It's highly contagious and it has a high death rate, and that's why people are really worried, and we don't have anything to fight it right now. And that's why you're seeing all these drastic, unprecedented measures that you've never seen before. Any of us have seen in our lives. Again, a lot of the symptoms: you have a fever, you have a dry cough, and that could be trouble. If you're like me, I have terrible allergies, so everyone's I'm going to be coughing. I think half of us are going to think we have coronavirus, and we don't. But it's important to check things. Your fever, right? If you have a fever, you have a dry cough, and the shortness of breath, that means that you should probably go get checked out. The people that are most at risk are the elderly, as we know. Right, so again, my grandparents, worried about them, staying away from them. We stay like 10 feet away from them, dropping off stuff at their door, saying happy birthday from far away. And people with some background ailments, if they have respiratory issues, and that includes people that maybe are smoking or vaping. So even young kids that vape a lot, they could be at a higher risk category just because of the respiratory problems. There's also, they think, some risks associated with different blood types are more likely to get it, but there hasn't been as much proven science to do with that. And again, the other big issue is low risk are the young. So you guys, and this is kind of almost a problem, you guys are at low risk. Sometimes you guys are going to be mostly asymptomatic. Maybe if you get it, you might not even feel that you're sick, but the problem is you can transmit it. And the asymptomatic issue is also an issue because people don't think they have it, and then they go and they visit their grandparents or somebody, and they're around and they're spreading it all over the place, right? And a lot of young people, they think, oh, we're not at risk, so they go to stupid things. I'm sure you saw the videos of people on spring break and doing dumb stuff because they don't think that, but that's how it spreads, and that's how it can. And by the end of this, and I'm hoping it's not, it doesn't go that way, but everyone's going to know somebody that's been affected by coronavirus. You might know somebody that has had it or have been affected by it. I know a lot of you guys might have people that work in the medical field that are doing with it, and I'm sure they're telling you the horror stories. It's crazy. And again, the death rate's about 2 to 3%, but that was the people that test positive. A lot of people are asymptomatic, and they might not have even gone in. And the SARS death rate was higher than that, 10%. So you could probably, and people have different opinions on it. You probably see this Band-Aid in my head. I actually hit myself. I had to get stitches when I did not want to go to the hospital. I fought it all day, and my friend's wife that was a doctor said, you gotta go. So I was pulling a nail out of siding, and I was tight to it, and it was stubborn and kicked back, and it got me in the head, and the whole hospital experience was wild. There was like checkpoints. I was the only one. I went to the one out east, the Peconic, only one in the whole ER. There was 3 checkpoints to even get to the ER, the non-sick ER. And even when we went in, you could tell the nurses were scared. The doctor wasn't. He was like, he wasn't as scared. You have some different medical opinions. with what's going on with it, but it's definitely very serious. And that whole thing was an experience in itself. Is I did not want to go to the ER. And if you can avoid going to an ER or a walk-in unless you really need to, do not go in. The number one way of spreading is aerosolized, which is just you cough or you sneeze. It's in the air, and those particles in it, those can last for about 3 hours. And that's the number one way that you can get it. An infected surface is called a fomite. So you have, my neighbor is on his dirt bike. If you have a fomite would be like if you're touching a surface, something like that. So grocery handle, cart, things like that. So it lasts about 4 hours on copper, 2 to 3 days on plastic, stainless steel. It stays on, and then 24 hours about cardboard. But the good news from the CDC is it does not, there's no documented cases of the fomite transferring from an object to a person yet. That doesn't mean it's not happening, but they say the majority of the documented cases are from aerosolized transport. The last thing we'll talk about is the whole flattening the curve thing. So what does that mean? That means that if we have everybody hanging out together and a lot of people get it at once, they're going to have to make some tough decisions. So if you have one ventilator, that can handle 2 people over 2 weeks, but that one ventilator cannot handle 2 people over 1 week. So you might have, if you have 2 people and you have one ventilator, then the doctors have to make some choices. And that's what you saw happen in Italy, right? You had, they said elderly people, they just didn't even use a ventilator on them. They have a choice between an 80-year-old man and a 45-year-old woman with 3 kids. They're going to use it on the 45-year-old woman. So that's why they're talking about flattening the curves. They say haven't seen our peak yet, but they're worried about the resources of medical equipment. So the biggest thing, my biggest advice to give to you is to listen to the science, listen to the experts, and don't listen to any social media, Facebook stuff, and stick with the science. So that's kind of the end of my thing today, my thing coronavirus. So what I want you to do is send me something on 365. Let me know that you're on there. You're going to get 10 points just for logging on. Tell me one good thing, one challenge that you've gone through. And then as we lead in, it's going to be easy. I'm going to try to keep it simple, straightforward. I'm not going to overwhelm you with things. We're just going to try to be interactive, participate with each other, try to leave your parents out of this. I know they're probably stressed as it is with everything going on. And, I miss you guys. Hope you guys are all doing well. And, we'll figure this out. All right. We'll see ya.